Welcome, everybody. This is Elaine Starling. I'm the host of Why 5% Succeed. I'm so delighted to have you here today because we love chatting with dynamic, powerful, insightful entrepreneurs who are really kicking their business into high gear. And just by hearing what they're doing and the approach that they're taking, you can apply some of these things in your business and see some immediate, massive results. Well, I want to share a few concepts with you because today we're going to be talking about money and your relationship with money. And it's not just you and your relationship with money, it's also the fact that every single client you work with, it doesn't matter what your area of expertise is, every single person you work with needs your help with two things. The first is managing fear. Fear is a constant motivator. It drives people to take action to try to prevent that pain from showing up. And your clients are looking to you to help them manage their fear. And often their fear is around how they can make more money, how they can be more successful with what they're trying to do. So the better you are at helping your clients understand the relationship that they have with money and improve their relationship, the better off you're going to be. Now, the other critical thing that your clients want help with is maintaining focus. There are so many distractions. I think the latest stats are over 9,000 different messages bombard you every single day, trying to steal your attention, trying to get you to focus on something new, something different. It's amazing we get anything done at all. And your clients are dealing with that frustration right now. They are so fractured. Their attention is all over the place, and that's why they're having difficulty getting things done and making progress on what they're trying to do. So when you can help your clients manage their fear, it doesn't mean it totally disappears. It means they work through in spite of their fear, and you can help them maintain focus. You're in the sweet spot. You are really in the zone and experiencing some incredibly great things that will magnetically attract your clients to you. Now, one of the things that I notice a lot with the entrepreneurs and business owners that I work with, the very first thing that they're talking about is, I need the revenue. I need the money, and money yesterday would be perfect. Whatever you can do to help me get money now, that's what I want. That's all I want to talk about is how do I get the money now? Well, once they think the revenue's coming in, then their reputation's going to be made, right? Once the revenue's coming in, everybody's going to know who they are. They can just take orders as fast as the phone rings. They don't have to cold call anymore. They don't have to worry about who knows them because everybody's going to know them. The money's coming in like crazy. So once the revenue's there and their reputation is made, then they think, oh man, I'll get to have these great relationships with people I've admired for years. I'll have Tony Robbins on speed dial, best buds, man. Every people's going to know who they are. And then finally, you start to pull a little bit more. What else could they possibly want from their business? And they finally start to share those magic moments. They start to share how they bring their true skills and abilities to the fore, and they show up really trying to serve, and they discover that what they do makes a massive difference for someone else. It's being in the zone, being in flow, where you're not worried about yourself. You're just there to serve, and you're having so much fun helping the other person. The rest of it doesn't really matter. Being able to be in that kind of rewarding experience is incredible for you. And so often people make the mistake of thinking they have to do all this other stuff, and then maybe at the end of their life or at the end of the day, they'll get a few tiny seconds of this rewarding experience. And they save up. They work so hard to get those tiny little experiences that they think, well, I just have to work really hard and maybe someday I'll get to enjoy that. That's what I call doing business backwards. It's the hard way. It's not the easy way. And I think you deserve the easy way. So I always work with my clients to flip things around. We start with the incredibly rewarding experience. It's leveraging your innate skills and abilities, exactly who you are. It doesn't matter how many other people do what you do. You have a very unique way of expressing yourself, of communicating, and collaborating with your clients. It makes a massive difference when you've got that rewarding experience first, because that's what attracts people to you to create those relationships. All a relationship is is a series of rewarding experiences. That's why you want a relationship with somebody, because they make you feel good about yourself. They make you feel like you're making progress. They help you manage your fear and maintain your focus. That's why you want the relationship. And while you set your standards of who you're going to be and how you're going to show up, it's your relationships that own your reputation, because your relationships are telling the rest of the world who you are being for them. And when those three things are aligned, you've got your rewarding experience, your relationships, and your reputation. The revenue is unavoidable. The revenue comes in the door. Well, I got to tell you, I'm so excited to have a fabulous guest with me today, Donna Colfer. I hope you had a chance to watch the trailer that I did about Donna, because she is a fabulous money coach, and she understands the mental processes people have and the relationship that people have with their money. So Donna, I just want to invite you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much, Elaine, for having me. I'm honored to be here and to share the information I have with you and your audience. So, oh boy, well, a little bit about me. It's a little bit of a mixed bag, because I've done accounting work for, 25 plus years, the numbers. And I think at that point, at that time, I was very much identified with my paycheck. But I also had this other side to me, and a spiritual side as a minister that was never really being expressed. Along with, I have a love of psychology and metaphysics, which wasn't always easy to talk about with people and still have people hire you for doing the numbers. So those didn't really go together. So I eventually became very bored with just doing those numbers, so I quit my 9-to-5. This has been about 12 years ago, and I just quit the job and I felt at first very lost. It was a scary thing, even though it was planned. My husband and I talked about it. It was okay, let's quit. And I didn't have that paycheck. And then, but a new door opened for me, and I became a certified money coach. And bringing together two very different worlds that I lived in for the first time. My numbers world and the fields of spirituality and psychology that I loved so much, because this is part of my passion. And like you were saying a moment ago, it's hard to be in a business that you're not passionate about, or if it's not about your passion and your inspiration. So with this change that I went through, there was no more hiding parts of myself to make money. So now I can bring all my skills and talents to my clients in a much more holistic way. And when we're talking about money and understanding what your relationship is with it, it's easier to make those shifts when it's done holistically. So at this point, as a money coach and a financial counselor, what I do now, and I'm so passionate about, is I help clients understand that relationship they have with money. I help them to identify and understand their hardwired, which is mainly unconscious, right? Hardwired money patterns and behaviors that may be preventing them from reaching their next level of success in their business or experiencing their full potential.
Yeah, that's so powerful, because often the biggest thing that's holding you back in your business, and the biggest thing that's holding your client back, it's yourself, right? It's always those thinkings, it's the patterns. You get into a certain pattern of behavior, and it's really hard to break out of those patterns. Well, one of the things that I really love sharing is something called the 10-80-10 rule. And I love this idea because it really helps you think a little bit differently about what's going on. So let me just explain the rule. With the 10-80-10 rule, when the stuff hits the fan and life is not good, about 10% of people are natural leaders. They look around, they get a quick glimpse of what are the resources, what are the challenges that we're facing, what's the deadline, blah, blah, blah. They put together a quick plan of action and they move out. 10% of people are natural leaders. About 80% of people are followers. They know they don't know what to do. The stuff is hitting the fan, and they got to figure it out. And so they immediately start looking around for another leader to follow. Who has a plan where I can get on board with that leader? So the beautiful news is 90% of people are actively looking for you right now, because 10% that are leaders, they're always looking for other leaders. They always want to learn what are the best practices, what are the best tools, what's the latest stuff that I can add to my repertoire to make me an even more powerful leader. And of course, followers are always looking for leaders. So 90% of people are always looking for you. Now, the final 10% of people are in a total state of panic. They're in emotional overwhelm. And the problem with that is that when you go into that state of panic, it is a physiological response, and your brain starts to kind of shut down a little bit. You might start to feel chills in your extremities. You feel shaky. It's the fight, flight, or freeze response that immediately happens. And it's very challenging to control. Remember, we talked about managing fear. It's really, really hard when you're in that 10% state. And I'm not dissing anybody in any state, because we all go through these 3 states at different times in different situations. There are times when you're a leader, there's times when you're a follower, and there's times when you are in a state of panic. But the critical thing whenever you do enter that state of panic is to immediately go, okay, wait a minute, this is a choice. I could be a follower right now. I could. All I got to do is decide I'm ready to be a follower. So if I were to follow somebody, where could I find somebody who's a leader where I could get in line with what they're doing and follow their action plan? How could I shift my focus out of myself and my state and into what's out there in the world that can serve me? Because when you shift your attention away from yourself and into what else is out there, it's amazing the breakthroughs that happen for you. And I know that you've got a lot of information about this, Donna, and I'd really love to get your perspective, because you've done a lot of work with people on how to break through some of those limiting beliefs, those barriers.
Yes, yes. I love what you said about that, just changing your focus, and it's not always so easy, but yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit more about fear. So many people suffer from money-related stress and anxiety, and fear is what keeps us small. It's what keeps that lid on our creative endeavors. Not only our creative endeavors, but our emotions and our spiritual growth. And that is all resistance to the good that's trying to come into you, that surrounds us all the time. What it does is it stimulates, like you were talking about, it stimulates the amygdala, which is, we're still operating from a primitive place. So it stimulates the amygdala, and it triggers the fight or flight response. So if fear runs your life, your financial life, ask yourself if it's real or not. Because there's 2 kinds of fear. There's authentic fear and there's unreal fear. Now, authentic fear is when we're in the actual presence of a danger to our well-being. You're just about to get into a car accident, or a dog's chasing you, going to bite you, or whatever that is. And then there's unreal fear, and this is the kind of fear that is stimulated by our imaginations, that it's what might happen rather than what is actually happening. So, but I want to make the point that all fear is real to the person who's experiencing it. So given that, you must address fear proactively, just like you were saying, Elaine. And this will absolutely slow the fear response down. It helps you to assess in that moment if it's real or not. So I just have 4 questions I'd like to give the audience. Is if ask yourself these questions if you're in this fear state. Number 1, what are you afraid might happen? Really get clear about that. Number 2, what is more probable? Number 3, what other possibilities can you think of?
I'm writing these down.
Yeah.
And we'll post them too. We'll post them on the page. So Write these down. So what other possibilities can you think of?
And then the last question, what do you hope will happen? What do you hope will happen? So I just wanted to give an example. I have a very close friend, and she worked as an executive all her life, and she was very good with her money. She has her 401ks, her retirement all mapped out. Her and her husband bought property, paid cash for it. I mean, she's really in a good position around money. And we had this conversation, and one day she said, you know what my biggest fear is in retirement is that I'm going to have to eat canned dog food. And I know, my mouth dropped, and I went, why would you be afraid of that? Now, she didn't really know why, but I know her background, and you know, and I could piece that together. But see, if she were to ask herself, you know, what are you most afraid might happen? You know, what is more probable? What's more probable here is that if she really thought about it, she would be eating healthy. You know, what other possibilities can she think of? She loves to garden, and maybe she grows some of her own food and vegetables and things like that. You know, so these are just not, most of the things that we are afraid of are not real, and they cause anxiety. So even though we can't always control what's on the outside of ourselves, like say for instance we fear the stock market crashing, or we fear that our job's not going to be, you know, stable enough and we have a layoff, sometimes we can't control what's on the outside of ourselves. Yes, but one thing we can do is we do the best we can, and one thing that we can control is where we choose to place our focus and attention and what we have to be grateful for. Because gratitude changes everything into enough. It's a state of mind. It's an attitude. It's a consciousness. And it's an integral part of being happy while working with the energy of money. And like you were saying, Elaine, the gratitude actually changes the physiology of your brain. It does, and it does it in a matter of seconds. And doing it daily will change your life. In fact, I think I think you'll find this interesting. There was a study done. It was scientifically proven that happy people have one thing in common, and it wasn't money. And the reason I love this study is it was done around the world. And what do you think what one thing happy people had in common?
They're grateful. They're grateful. Absolutely.
That's exactly right. It was gratitude. So financial happiness has less to do with how much you have and more about how much you understand your own mind.
That is so true. That is so true. And I know that there are people who are really struggling. I know that they might be up against it. They've got a lot of big bills coming. They've got a lot of challenges, maybe health issues that they're dealing with. And they're trying to figure out, how in the world am I going to make ends meet?
Right.
And I understand if you're stuck in that kind of a place, and it's a scary place, no doubt.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
The thing I want to remind every single person, no matter how dire your situation, it is purely there to remind you of just how capable and how resourceful you can be in the moment. You can shift into that space of panic and despair, and we've all had the pity party, you know?
Yeah.
Deserved, you know? It's a challenging situation, and you need a chance to mourn, right?
Yeah.
But after the pity party, remind yourself that you're very capable and very resourceful, and we have this blessing called Google. You can get online. You can find just about anything. If you're trying to figure out how can I make some more money, check out websites like Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com, and you will see all the crazy things people are willing to do for $5. And of course, they've got other things that they're willing to do for more. You can check out Elance. It's like freelance, but ELANCE.com. And you can offer your services to other people around the globe who will hire you to help them do projects. These are things that you can do after your full-time job. You are very talented. There are lots and lots of ways for you to make more money. And my tax advisor, I love this guy because, you know, you're filling out your checks for the tax, and nobody really enjoys doing that. But the thing that I loved about him is he said, you can always make more money. You can always make more money. And it really helped me shift how I think about money and the secret of what I think money really, really means in your life. Because if you look at people who have lived a long life and what are they grateful for, what do they show as their biggest accomplishments throughout their life, the people who have great friendships live a lot longer and are much healthier a lot longer. The people who have that gratitude, who give back to their community, who are truly engaged, frankly, it's those people who cherish rewarding experiences and step out to serve other people. They're the ones who are truly, truly rich. And people show up to help you. It's amazing if you start thinking about money as what some people view as a scorecard. That's all it is. It's a method of keeping score, just like a basketball game. You see the score come up there? Well, that's very competitive thinking.
Right.
And in today's society, we live in a collaborative society. If you win, I win, and vice versa. Wow. So it's a matter of shifting your thinking and saying that's a very old-fashioned way of keeping score. Yeah. And now we've got a new tally system, which is how can I show up, leveraging my skills and making a huge difference for as many people as possible.
Yes.
I know you've got a lot to say about that, Donna, and you also have a unique perspective on how people relate to money, the kinds of relationships that they have with their money. I'd love for you to share some of that.
Yes, great. I'd love to. And so I'd like to start off by describing a little bit. I loved what you said about how positive all of that was and how collaborative, because that is the modern warrior is not competitive any longer. They are collaborative. And so I'd like to touch upon why it's so hard then to change our thinking and to change this way, you know, of being. And I'd like to talk a little bit about the brain and what its main job is. The main job of our brain is to keep us safe, really, since we're, you know, coming from the fight or flight, the old reptilian brain. But in keeping us safe, it follows those same patterns that were already established through past experiences, whether they be negative or positive, and they follow those exactly in order to keep our sanity. So it doesn't really want you to be different than yourself, because oh, there she goes, she's going to change now. Alert, you know. And so when we talk about money and how we're hardwired to think and behave, most of what we know and feel about money we learn from our families, our role models, through our environment. And most of this is through osmosis, really, because it's not spoken. There's very few families that I come across in my clients that talked about money or who were taught by their parents around money, and there's no blame in that because no one taught them either. So what the child does then, they perceive through their eyes what they see and through their emotions, what they're feeling. And this produces a lot of conflicting thoughts, feelings, and emotions. So this leads to a lot of shame, guilt, and anxiety. And what I know from doing this work for 10 years now is that these are deeply entrenched, multi-generational family patterns. So most of our behaviors around money are unconscious. We're on automatic pilot. So that's why I say that your relationship with money has very little to do with how much or how little you have. You can still feel vague and confused and frustrated with money. I have clients that are very wealthy who are anxiety ridden. And I have other clients who don't have a lot of money at all, and they are easier to get to the happy place. So you can still feel vague, confused, and frustrated with money, or you can have abundance, peace, and more balance. So if you don't understand how you're relating to money, you can't transform or heal it. It's those core underlying issues of betrayal, resentments, and feeling powerless that will continue to run your life without leaving you a clue why. And this will continue wasting your time and your precious energy, especially important if you have your own business. So I have a method I use to help you to understand your relationship with money through the use of archetypes or money types. And there are 8 main archetypes that I use, money types, that are most commonly displayed around money. And I do want to say that these were not, this method was not something that I developed. It was developed by Deborah Price from the Money Coaching Institute. I just want to say that. But brilliant woman. And so because of our limited time today, I'm only going to describe 3 of those most problematic ones. And first, before I do that, I want to emphasize one thing, that these are not, archetypes are not meant to label you. They're not who you are. They're not your personality. It's not another personality typing system. It is where you are with money and how you stored your money memories. So I want to start off with just by describing the victim energy. Archetypes are very universal. That's why we use them. It's easier to understand right away who you're being. And so the victim energy is someone who is stuck in their story, who lives in the past. They are overly identifying with a negative experience. And so they often blame their financial situation on external factors. They may have been abused or betrayed, hence the victimization, or suffered some great loss. But they have difficulty with change. So they have a tendency to live out a self-fulfilling prophecy. So it stays that way. And that's a very difficult energy to hold when you're talking about wanting to make more money and you know, increasing your income. So the next one is the martyr. And this one, the martyr is so busy taking care of other people's needs, they often forget their own. So this creates unconscious long suffering. And you know, they're not always conscious of their suffering. So they may have strings attached to their giving. They have a tendency to be self-sacrificing and to overgive. So this is the archetype of the woman, especially the mother archetype. Taking care of the kids, working full-time maybe, and making sure all the pieces are, juggling. So this is the archetype of the workaholic. And this takes multitasking to a whole new level. And then last is the archetype of the fool. And this is a gambler by nature. This is someone who is looking for a windfall, takes financial shortcuts. They're fearless. They can just keep moving, but they don't always know where they're going. So they can get caught up in the enthusiasm of the moment. They have a tendency to fly by the seat of their pants. They lack discipline. They have restless energy. Very generous people. Fun to hang out with. They're the ones that are always going to pay the bill, and even when you know that they can't afford it. They're the ones that will pick up the tab really quickly. So, but the key healing for them is to really slow down their decision-making process, and to be willing to look at the truth of what's really going on financially.
You know, Donna, I'm going to interrupt here for just a second because this is such a powerful concept. And I know that you very generously have put a quiz online so that we can find out our own money archetypes.
Yes.
And I really want people to look at this for two different reasons. First of all, look at it for yourself, of course. But secondly, step back and look at these common archetypes and just imagine your business and applying a similar archetype to your business and your clients. How are your clients showing up? What are their common challenges? What are their common behaviors around the challenges and the areas that you solve? Because helping your clients understand the barriers that they inflict on themselves will help you connect with your clients better and open them up to experience more success. So we'll put this link on the event page, but I also want you to go to buildingwealthfromwithin.com/money-quiz. That's buildingwealthfromwithin.com/money-quiz, because this is really powerful. Understanding your own unconscious behaviors around money is the key to understanding what your hot buttons are, what sets you off, and what those subtle, simple cues are that you can apply to yourself so that you can manage your fear and maintain your focus. This is brilliant. Honestly, Donna, this is really, really great. What would be a great next step for people to take? Are there any is there any immediate advice that you could provide that would help people get into a better state around their money?
Well, you mean, do you want me to go into the tips and action steps right now?
Yeah, okay. I think that'd be really helpful.
Yeah, because you know, more specifically, when you do find out, if you do take the quiz on my site, only you will see the results, so it's private. And then you can then read about each archetype and what it entails after your scoring, and more specifically to look at what archetype needs what key healing is the real tip. But I do have some tips and action steps in general for managing your money fears. So one tip is take a break from the news, all the doom and gloom, and really don't watch the news before you go to bed. It's not a good idea because most of us have trouble sleeping as it is. And because that promotes a lot of fear, I think. Be financially proactive. It will relieve anxiety. And anxiety is when you're into the future, you're living in the future and wondering what might happen. And depression is when we live in the past. The only time you can really be content is to be in your present moment. So being proactive will be in your moment, and you can relieve anxiety that way. Monitor your thoughts. Really try to pay attention to where you allow your mind to go, and Control Alt Delete any negative things, any negative thoughts. Find a way to be of service to others. It will enrich your life. And I think you mentioned that earlier, Elaine. Mm-hmm. Practice gratitude daily. Make a list of everything you have to be grateful for, because it'll change the physiology of your brain, and you'll have more relaxation. Get clear about what is working in your life, and focus on that rather than what isn't working. Create a new intention or vision for your life. What would that be? What would that look like? And just be proactive. Pay attention to how you're spending your time, because it's one of your most valuable assets. Get support. You don't need to do this alone. That's why there's so many people on this planet. Adjust your lifestyle, your thinking, and your habits. You don't have to do everything. Just enough of the right things. Practice consistent self-care. That's a big one for the martyr energy. Exercise. Maybe you can do yoga, take walks, meditate, pray, simplify your life, and eat healthy. Many of these things don't cost any money. And forgiveness is a big one. It really is the cornerstone to happiness. And that's one of the key healings for the victim archetype. And if you're holding grudges and resentment, the forgiveness is a big piece. And it's done in your own time. But as long as you hold on to what's no longer happening, it's very difficult to move forward. So when you forgive yourself or forgive others, you free yourself from the past, and you really do clear the way to a better tomorrow. So connect with others. Don't isolate yourself. It's better to be believe in and honor yourself deeply. And watch your self-worth and then your net worth grow. And commit to becoming financially awake and empowered. So those are my tips for that.
Donna, that is brilliant. I mean, truly, these are simple things. And yet, when you're in that state of being so anxious about money and how are you going to make ends meet, you get into that state of panic. And I love what you said about taking the time for yourself, taking time to step back and decompress a little bit. The 80-20 rule is very true. Only about 20% of the things you're doing deliver 80% of the results you want. That means 80% of your time is stuff you don't need to be doing. So instead of hurrying and rushing into doing all the time, step back, take some deep breaths, relax a bit, and start looking at where could you be more resourceful. Now, one of the things that I invite my clients to do is set your expectations every day at the beginning of the day. There are different methods to do this, but one of the things that I love to do is first make a list of 10 things that you're grateful for. In a perfect world, it would be 10 things that you haven't listed before. I tend to have my husband on that list every single day, but, you know, that's me. But identify 10 things that you're grateful for, and then identify 10 things that you would love to have happen today. 10 things that you really want to be present to. So one of the things that I've done before is I would say I'd love to get some great direction from a mentor today. And I'll find myself standing in line at Starbucks. There's a couple of people in front of me. They're having a conversation. I don't know them. I have no idea what they're talking about. I'm in my own little head thinking through my thing. And some random comment that they make is like perfect for me. I got my guidance.
Yes.
But I have to tell my non-conscious mind, this is important to me. I'm looking for this. So when you make that list of 10 different things that you want to experience today, you want to experience being relaxed. You want to experience being present. You want to experience being confident. You want to experience feeling generous and grateful for what's happening in your life. You can make a list of those things, and your brain will serve that up to you.
That's
but
right.
Set your own expectations, because that makes a massive difference.
That's right. It does. It's very similar to when you've never seen a lime green Volkswagen, and all of a sudden you buy one, and you see 10 that day. We are blinded to things in our brains, and until we bring it into our consciousness. That's how we invite and attract it to come into our lives. So I love that you say that, and there's such a great book around this that I'd like to give to the audience as a resource.
Please.
It's called Making Your Mind Magnificent, and it's about making your mind magnificent. It is written by Stephen Campbell. And what he's done is he has taken, it's like a compilation of neuroscience, all the famous psychologists and psychiatrists, and he's put all this information that normally is hard to conceive of, and he makes it simple, how your brain functions, all these ways that you can do simple exercises, and it's fantastic. It's like for dummies. It's great. So I highly recommend that for that. And he goes into why affirmations work and why they don't. So Another couple books that I highly recommend for understanding your relationship with money were written by Deborah Price, and one is called Money Magic.
Mm-hmm.
I recommend.
Shoot. Donna, whoops, could you say about Money Magic one more time? Because unfortunately the screen froze, and I really want to make sure we get that.
Okay. It's Money Magic by Deborah Price, and I recommend that for single people. And then she's written another book called The Heart of Money, which is a couple's guide to creating true financial intimacy. And that's the other one that I highly recommend. Well written. Yeah, very easy to read.
That is so great. Well, Donna, this has been a fabulous conversation. I have the last and toughest question that I have to ask you.
Okay.
Is there anything that I haven't asked you, or any final thought that you'd like to share with our audience today?
Well, healing your relationship with money is a journey that takes time to walk. And some of the signs that you might want to look out for that you may need to work on your money issues if you're a couple, because I think that there's a lot of couples that are in need of that, is if you have two conflicting sets of patterns, right, that you bring to the table. If you have unexpressed emotions, differences in communication style, that's a big one, I think. Clash of values and priorities. Issues of control and power in a relationship. That's a big one too. So those are a few things to think about. And also for individuals, if you have a lot of fear and shame, if you have a tendency to procrastinate, if you're overwhelmed a lot, confused, or have a tendency to become anxious, just ask for help and find yourself a mentor. You've mentioned it before earlier, and I totally agree with that. And and gather more information through these books, I think, would be a great resource. Yeah. And take the money type quiz. Find out who you are being. It isn't who you are. You're much more. The real gold inside is your skills, talents, and abilities, and how you can maximize the earning potential in that.
That's wonderful. Donna, thank you so much for your time today. This was a really fun, engaging conversation about money, and not only your personal relationship with money, but then also thinking about your clients and how your clients perceive money and perceive their relationship with you around money. Because take all of this, apply it to yourself, and then apply it to your business, because that will really, really amplify what you're doing. Thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. I'm going to be taking next week off to enjoy the Christmas holiday with family and friends. Okay. But I will look forward to seeing you on Wednesday, December 31st at 1 p.m. Pacific time. See you there.
Thank you, Elaine. It's an honor.